Cyberpunk as a genre is becoming more and more present in the mainstream media through video games and TV/cinema. Since its start in the 60s and the 70s, Cyberpunk made a huge impact as a subgenre of science fiction, mostly examining the impact of drug culture, technology, and the social divergence, while avoiding the utopian view of the future that early science fiction was portraying at that time. Science fiction, books, films, etc. imagine the future as this utopian paradise where diseases and hunger are going to be solved and we will explore the universe and all that amazing stuff. Also, the idea of crime and drugs for those early sci-fi writers was non-existent. But during the 60s and the 70s, writers like Philip K. Dick, Roger Zelazny, William Gibson, Richard Morgan, and so many more explored a different idea of the future, a dystopian one, where high-tech meets low life, where social injustice and booster gangs roam the streets and the planet is much in chaos. A lot of those books that were written during that time became even more popular with technological revolution, with the first computers and with the internet, especially during the 90s when all of that tech inspired movies like Blade Runner, RoboCop, Johnny Mnemonic, The Terminator, where even though one might say the Terminator is not cyberpunk, but it is, it just shows a different idea of the future, which is still a dystopian one, where because of tech humanity is going to pay the ultimate price. And trust me, people told me before that Terminator is not cyberpunk, but actually it is. Because at that time people were still exploring the possibilities of internet with this dose of fear, in my opinion, because it was so new and strange. Even the Ghost in the Shell from 1995 had such an impact of how the future might look and how dark it generally is, and that is why the genre was flourishing. Even in the video game industry, you had games like The Snatcher, Beneath a Steel Sky, Neuromancer, Shadowrun, and System Shock, which at that time was one of the best games ever made. I mean, it still is one of the best games ever made. But after that, during the start of the 21st century, Cyberpunk lost a lot of that popularity, mostly because people got used to technology around them. It wasn't so new and mysterious, it was there every single day. Yes, we did have games and films that were somewhat cyberpunk. I mean, it definitely evolved into something else, because one is going to portray cyberpunk looking at the technology from today. I mean, look at Blade Runner and that idea of the future, and then look at Total Recall from 2012, for example. Design changed a lot. But even then, during some years, especially in the gaming industry, besides Deus Ex, there were no AAA cyberpunk titles. It seems like only indie developers went into that genre until CDPR announced Cyberpunk 2077. So it does look like that people want to bring that classical cyberpunk back. Even the reboot of Blade Runner proved that. So I definitely think that Cyberpunk is coming back. With the release of VR and how technology is moving, another revolution in the writing and how other media portrays Cyberpunk is going to happen, and it's going to become more popular once again, since I believe that in the past 3 years people became obsessed with going back and rebooting or remastering older work. Not only in Cyberpunk, but you saw that with other genres as well, like Resident Evil 1, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Medieval, and so on. Even series are going back to that genre like Altered Carbon, Black Mirror, and so on. And even the gaming industry is going to go back to that classical cyberpunk. I really do think that developers and publishers will look at Cyberpunk 2077, and if that succeeds, they could generally push in that direction, especially if they do see that people want to play those kind of games. Even Revolution Software that made Beneath the Steel Sky 1 is, I believe, working on the second part of that game, but nothing is confirmed so far. But more and more people are influenced by that, since the whole point of Cyberpunk was how tech was mysterious and unknown to us. I mean, generally it still is, but majority of us don't see the future anymore as bright, as utopian, but more of a cyberpunk and chaos. And because of that, I believe the genre is coming back for a second time, since right now there is so much to explore and so many stories to tell. And I do believe that more AAA studios in the future are going to work on Cyberpunk Cyberpunk and try to produce Cyberpunk-like games. But at the same time, I am not denying what indie studios are doing, because a lot of those indie studios are making Cyberpunk games, and honestly really good Cyberpunk games. It is a domino effect in my opinion, since just the announcement of Cyberpunk 2077 shifted a lot of YouTubers to create videos around Cyberpunk and that genre in general, because even older channels like myself kinda turned into that direction. I mean, I did love Cyberpunk when I was a kid. I loved this idea of Cyberpunk universe, of this dystopian booster gangs running the street kind of a universe, which is dark and just scary, but even a lot of those older channels are shifting in that direction, and you even have new channels being created on YouTube to just talk about Cyberpunk and Cyberpunk 2077 in general. So it is that domino effect I'm talking about, which just one announcement is going to change a lot of those channels to talk about the genre and about that game. But the future is going to show if I was right or wrong, but tell me down below what you think about this, and if you enjoyed the video, click that like and subscribe button down below. LastKnownMeal signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.